Hello everybody, I had the greatest idea. Also, this is Tim the Holiday Show. I had the greatest idea for future SVI Christmas life sizes, okay? And you're probably thinking, how? Well, they could do more Santas. But let's not do Santa right now. Let's focus on things like a life-sized animated Mrs. Claus. And what I would like to see is, you know, the SVI life-size Christmas Yoda? You know how it has like a servo head and it moves side to side, up and down, and the eyes blink and move and all that? What if they made a Mrs. Claus with a servo head and the eyes blink and move and who knows what else? Her arms maybe, like SVI, there's so much potential for a life-size Mrs. Claus, and this would be a perfect way of doing it, because it's not like any kind of rubber for the mold of the Christmas life-size Yoda. It's not just any rubber that's gonna deteriorate over time. It's a really professional latex of some sort that doesn't break down easily. And I thought this would be awesome if SVI made a life-size Mrs. Claus, like this kind of design, like with the hood and everything, but the head would move up and down, side to side, and back and forth, and her eyes would move up and down like the Yoda, and back and forth, and the eyes would blink, her mouth would move. It would be amazing. And you know what? Why not, right? They could do it. Even if she was wearing glasses, they could still do it. Because the new SVI life-size Santa talks about Mrs. Claus, and that could be a hint to a life-size Mrs. Claus. But SVI, if you see this would be a genius design idea, and SVI could do a life-size Santa with a brand new face mold that's even better, with a latex and the eyes blink and move and servo head mech movement, and maybe that would be awesome. And instead of giving him like a generic white red suit, maybe they could do like a red suit with white gloves and like just something different. Have bells on his suit and whatever. Give Mrs. Claus like white gloves as well. That would be awesome. Instead of red gloves, give Santa and Mrs. Claus white gloves instead of wearing red gloves. You know what I mean? That would be another great touch. And put more detail on the clothing. Instead of having a generic life-size Santa with a generic suit, do something different. But imagine a life-size Mrs. Claus and a life-size Santa with a servo head mechanism, movement, and the eyes blinking and the eyes moving up and down and side to side, and the head tilting up and down as well, tilting side to side and moving side to side. It would just be amazing. Could you imagine? That would be amazing. It would be sold in Canada and the US, and there wouldn't be any differences, because why would you change it? Just leave them the same. Don't change the Canadian model, because the new life-size Santa, they kept it the same as the US one, which was smart. They finally learned from that, so that's good. But these could be future SVI Christmas Home Depot life-size exclusives for Home Depot only, in Canada and the US. Could you imagine? And could you imagine a life-sized animated gingerbread man? That has never been done before, and they could do it. You know how Jemmy did a life-size Oogie Boogie with that like clothing material? They could do that with a gingerbread man. I don't know how they make the mouth move, but they could give him like real eyes, maybe like realistic eyes or something. I don't know, but it'd be pretty cool. You know what I mean? They could do that. A life-size Nutcracker that sings and moves, and not those LED eyes. No. Don't add that because it's silly. It's nice, but just give it ordinary eyes instead of them LED tech eyes. It's weird. Just give it normal eyes. But could you imagine? That would be amazing to see from SVI to make these kinds of things for Christmas life sizes. Quality and animation wise for Home Depot for Christmas in Canada and the US. If you guys think this is awesome, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to agree, because why wouldn't you? Like, this is a perfect idea. They could do this so easily. If they can do it with Halloween, they can do it with Christmas. And I'm so tired of seeing a life-size Santa like this. I like it and all, but it's a generic Santa suit, nothing different. A generic Santa Claus face, nothing different. And the animation, what if SVI also made dancing life-size characters? Because the Pan-Asian ones, the body moves like this. Have it move like this when it's dancing, because it looks way better, like the Jimmy life-size dancing characters. Maybe SVI will start making dancing life sizes as well. But before we get into that, let's see a life-size Mrs. Claus, an updated version of a Christmas life size. Okay, I just explained what they could do. That would be amazing. Could you imagine? And that would just be fantastic. And maybe they could give her like a lantern, and she could talk about how she's going outside to get Santa's sleigh ready with all the presents for the good little boys and girls. That would be amazing. And could you imagine a life-size elf that talks and sings as well, with servo movements and the eyes moving and blinking? That would be awesome. That would be awesome to see as well. And then they could do like a life-size dancing Mrs. Claus that sings and dances, and a Santa. Maybe they could even make the eyes move as well on the dancing characters. There's so many things SVI could do, like, and make a new reindeer. What if SVI does the Rudolph characters? Could you imagine a servo life-sized Rudolph with the actual audio from the movie, with blinking eyes that move and the nose lights up, and a life-size Santa from the Rudolph movie, and different characters like this? Could you imagine these potential, like, there's so many potential life sizes. The life-size reindeer, okay, that SVI made, not a fan of it, because it doesn't even talk. I know reindeers don't talk, but Rudolph talks in the movie. It's a movie. Use your imagination. Be creative. It's a reindeer. Reindeers talk in Christmas movies, so there you go. I'm not a fan of that life-size reindeer. Canada finally got it, but I'm not a big fan of it. Plus the setup is not the best. What if they did another, you know how the ears move on the Yoda, the Christmas Yoda? They could make the ears move on the reindeer with the head moving and the mouth moving and the eyes moving and blinking and the Rudolph nose lighting up. They could do a Rudolph, just their own version of Rudolph. It doesn't have to be the movie. They could do their own version. That would be awesome. They could do a life-size snowman, and I had a perfect idea for a life-size snowman. You guys are going to love this. Could you imagine a life-size snowman, okay? It wouldn't just be like a Jamie life-size snowman. It would be 6 feet, okay? And he would have his head, he'd be moving side to side, right? And he would move like this, then his head would go like this. His eyes would start blinking and his mouth would move, and they would move side to side, his eyes up and down. And then all of a sudden he would start taking the hat off his head. There's an SVI life size for Halloween at the skeleton, and he takes the hat off and puts it back on. What if they did that with a snowman? That would make perfect sense. What if they did a life-size caroler for Christmas, okay? A life-size Christmas caroler with body movement, servo head movement, mouth movement, eye movements. Like, there's so much potential right there, okay? That would be fantastic. There's so many different life-size, like, I'm so tired of seeing a life-size Santa every year. Like SVI, they made a cowboy Santa, whoopee. Like, you know what I mean? And it just has the same movement. It doesn't have a different face or nothing. The phrases are different, but... And the one that's like a beach Hawaii one, that is awful. Like, what's the point of that? SVI, it's time to get creative with your life sizes. And you know what? This would be so much better. This would be so successful for Christmas life sizes. And it's definitely a good idea. It'd be heading in the right direction for Christmas life sizes. This would be awesome. And the quality would be just as good as this, or even better. Like, you know, like SVI made a witch life size and it had servo head and the eyes blinked and she held a basket with a frog in it. The quality was amazing on that, but didn't look like a witch. But that's not the point. It's the animation with the eyes moving and blinking and the servo head mechanism and her mouth moving. The mouth movement as well was so realistic. And they could do this with a Mrs. Claus. It doesn't have to be like a Mrs. Claus holding a lantern. She could be holding a pan with cookies in it. Who knows? But they could do this, or just a Mrs. Claus, a life-size Mrs. Claus with servo mechanisms in the eyes and the head turning and all that, her mouth moving, singing, and she's talking. That would be awesome. There's just so many things they could do. It would be amazing to see a life-size Mrs. Claus. We've never gotten one from Jimmy. The only company I think we've gotten a life-size Mrs. Claus from was like Pan Asian. Other than that, we haven't gotten one. And it really doesn't make sense, because Mrs. Claus is a Santa Claus, but it's a female Santa. This is Santa Claus, but there's also a Mrs. Claus. That's a Santa Claus. So we all want to see a life-size Mrs. Claus. It would be amazing. Believe me, if there was a life-size Mrs. Claus made by SVI with servo mechanisms that talks and sings and it actually looks really good and sounds awesome, man, that would probably be a bigger hit than the Santa, because we always get a Santa every year from SVI. It would just be awesome to see a life-size Mrs. Claus. And not only that, but a life-size reindeer with servo mechanisms. I know the head had servo mechs in it, but that's not the point. Imagine if the ears moved too, and the eyes and the mouth. It was an actual Rudolph life-size, like not from the movie, but their own version. That would be awesome. Like, it would be unbelievable. Imagine if SVI also made like a life-size Santa flying in a sleigh, right? Like it's an actual sleigh. It'd be a huge prop, but it'd be awesome. He's flying in a sleigh and his arms move up and down and his head moves around with servo and his eyes are blinking and his mouth moves. And it wouldn't be all the reindeer, but he could have like 2 reindeer flying the sleigh and they're singing and moving around and with their heads and mouth. It'd be awesome. Imagine that, but that would be so expensive. They probably couldn't do that because it'd be just too much money. Like, there wouldn't be enough sold, and it'd be hard to like that. It'd be a big box. So, plus, where would you put it, right? But anyway, if you guys agree with me, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. I think it'd be an amazing idea to see a life-size Mrs. Claus. Anyways, I'll see you guys in another holiday video.